Barbara Leigh, and I wrote the book, Why Smart Girls Get into Bad Relationships and How Not to Do It Again. I'm going to start out by telling you a little bit about me. I grew up on a small dairy farm in west central Wisconsin. I was always the smart kid, the good kid, the quiet kid. I made good choices. I got confident in my abilities. I would not describe my childhood as traumatic. I went off to college, just down the street. I met a young man with whom I felt madly in love. We spent every waking moment together. We were inseparable. It was intoxicating. It was not healthy. There were no boundaries. He had a previous commitment with the Army and left for basic training 6 weeks after we met. When he completed basic training, I took a Greyhound bus to Georgia to attend his graduation, and while I was there, we got engaged. I expected to get married after he completed his military duty and I completed college. He came home on leave before being stationed in Germany. There was part of me that had been nagging that this was too much of a fairy tale, that the separation would be good. It would give us some basic reality. I wanted to get him an out, so I told him I thought we should break up until he got back, because 4 years is a long time. This was the 80s. There was no cell phones. There was no internet. My dorm had a phone in the hallway. I didn't mean it. I had no intention of breaking up. And looking back, it was really a play to get him to say, it's okay, we're gonna make it, we're gonna do this. That is not what happened. We broke up. I expected him to keep in touch, he did not. From this, I assumed the reality was, he didn't really love me. But I couldn't really believe that. That didn't feel true. So, when you believe two opposing truths, it's called cognitive dissonance, and I had a lot of that for a long time. He came back a year later. His parents asked if I wanted to go along to the airport to meet him. So I went, and it was a lovely Hallmark moment, the whole Hallmark movie thing. However, while he was back on leave, I realized that he had an alcohol problem. I told him he needed to get help, and I let him go. What had actually happened was he had never really expected me to love him. So when confronted with what I expected to be a minor roadblock, he just assumed the fairy tale was over and he should go back to his own reality. I expected him to have the confidence that I had. At the time, I realized exactly none of this. I was devastated multiple times on multiple levels, as was he. It wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't narcissist versus empath. It was human beings being human. I took this experience into my next relationships. I tried harder to control what I could control and things I couldn't. I took whatever my partner said and did my best to be what he wanted. I still didn't know how to set boundaries. Life isn't perfect. Things happen. I couldn't control everything, and I chose partners that admired my confidence, but didn't have much of their own. Their minor roadblocks looked like my own personal failings, and my self-confidence began to plummet. My partner would blame me, and I would blame myself. I got caught in a cycle that I didn't even know I was in. People with low self-esteem have a hard time loving others because they don't feel worthy of being loved themselves. And there I was in the same place as my partner, until I realized I didn't deserve to be treated like that. I chose me. I started building myself up. It was a long road. My book is about seeing the cycle and building back up. It's about stopping that cycle, not becoming another person who feels unworthy, and not causing another person to feel unworthy. Excuse me. that helped me along the way, books that have made me feel seen, and address a piece of the process of finding myself back. But I never felt like any one book got the whole picture. There are too many buzzwords, some went too deep into one thing, and some didn't go deep into anything, which was fine. Those generally were for motivation, and sometimes you just need that motivation. When I hit the realization that I was worthy, I just focused on treating myself with love. It's not about expensive day spas or lavish trips. It's about focusing your self-talk on the positive, giving yourself some peace, having patience with yourself. But eventually it occurred to me, I didn't have any idea why my relationships were so bad, and I was terrified that I would do it again. I never planned to write a book. Over the years, I spent a lot of breath telling my daughter not to be me. I swear some days she is more me than I am. In any case, there were a lot of opportunities to share the things that I've learned. She kept telling me, you need to write a book. And I was like, you aren't even listening to me. How's that gonna work? Eventually, one day, I needed to write the book. Turns out I like writing. Who knew? I took the process I used, starting at terrified that I would do it again, to where I am now, which is feeling good about myself. And I broke it down into what it was and what it was not. It was not any one thing. It was many things across my whole life. It required some grieving. It was mental, physical, emotional, social, spiritual. It hit all the things. It was based on beliefs that I had that were true, and some that were a little bit warped. It involved learning skills that no one had taught me, and unlearning behaviors that I picked up along the way. So tonight, the theme, Empowered Living, a Smart Choices series got me really excited. So how do you make smart choices about relationships? When I was preparing for this talk, my daughter told me, nobody cares about the boat. I said, well, what are you talking about? People want to get from island A to island B, and they don't care how. Well, that's really unfortunate because my whole book is about the middle. It's the journey. So I'm here to tell you, island B is a much better place to be, but it has a lot to do with journey. People think if I can just resolve my childhood trauma, or if I reach some ideal body type so I feel better about myself, or I get past my daddy issues, or if I overcome my addiction, then I will have arrived. No promises. God knows I haven't done any of those things. There is no magic boat. In fact, it mostly feels like rowing one stroke at a time through a swamp. I wrote the book not to do the rowing for you, but in the hopes it will upgrade you something to a little faster, like, 2 oars, or at least clear some of the obstacles out of your path. There are many ways to get to island A, and what do they all have in common? In my opinion, it all starts with what you know about yourself, your beliefs about your body, your worth, your ability, your sexuality, your gender, your place in society, your religion, a host of other things, all impact your ability to make smart choices, because smart choices are relative to who you are and who you perceive yourself to be. We put a huge effort into denying that our beliefs have put limits on us. We keep ourselves busy so we don't notice or feel things. We try not to feel at all so we can continue with things that don't quite fit right. So we're on island A, and we are clinging to this free. there is not much of island A to sit on. So we are stuck hanging onto that tree. So the first thing we need to do is notice and say no. You need to drop the busyness so that you can notice. You need to feel. Because a lot of times we stop feeling, so we don't need to notice. We're doing fine, hanging on to that tree as long as we hang on. You need to listen to yourself, just, what is it I'm saying to myself? Is it true? And mostly, you need to know what you deserve as a human being. What do you deserve from yourself? What do you deserve from others? You are worthy. So, you notice, and you're saying no to that, being stuck on a tree. And you say, okay, I cannot stay here on a day anymore because I've noticed, and now I need to do something about it. So you get in the boat, and you treat yourself with love, and you to be positive, and you seek peace, and you have patience with yourself, because it's a long road, and it takes a lot of patience, trust me. I would recommend, though you hit all of these things many times, I would recommend you start with grief. And you're like, why do I gotta start with grief? What the heck? That doesn't sound right. I just left a bunch of grief. No, you left a bad situation. Grief is a transition. Grief is where you recognize why you were up a tree and say, I'm not gonna do that anymore. That's not me. You let go of who you were because you need to transition to who you're gonna be. And letting go of that, you need to acknowledge it and make a transition. You need to mourn the loss of what you were expecting. When you got to Island A, you were expecting a tropical paradise. And that is not what you got. So, you gotta look at what you were expecting and say, you know what? I really thought it was gonna be great. And I realize now that it wasn't, and I really need to let that go. It's not gonna happen. And I can't make it happen myself. Because whatever I entered into when I got to Island A, it is not what happened. And so you have to mourn that expectation. There's also a loss of familiarity. You got really good at hanging on to that tree. And that's what your body is used to. That's what thoughts your mind is used to playing in your head. And you have to let all of that go. And that's familiar to you. That's your response when things happen to you. That's where you're used to being. And you have to let that go. You have to say, okay, that's familiar, but I'm moving to a new familiar, and I need to let that go. And I can't take those behaviors with me. Stop at grief for a while. The stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, are not something you do in that order or even all at once. You can go from grief to any of these, to any of those, at any time. You bounce back and forth. And you bounce back and forth between all of these things. It's not a step-by-step process. I once was told that children, when they have a trauma, they revisit it once a year, And when they revisit it, they've learned new things in that year. And so they can process the trauma a little bit more. And each year they learn new things and they can process a little bit more of it until they're able to let it go. And that's what you're doing here. You're going through the process, but you're learning new things as you go through the process. And you have to come back and revisit things because you've now learned more and now you've hit a new thing that you need to process. And you go through it again. And that's okay. And that's why you need to bring patience with you in both. So let's move on to explore your beliefs. How do you explore your beliefs? Well, you look first at those things you were grieving. What got me to the island? How did I get here? What doesn't feel right? What causes fear? When you look at how people treat you, does that feel right? Does it feel true? How do you treat yourself? What have you always wanted? What makes you uncomfortable? And why? What do you feel you deserve? And why? When you look at your beliefs, you're looking at all of these things, all of these aspects of your life, mental, physical, emotional, social, spiritual. All of these things have various beliefs around them. And you need to look at, okay, where are the things that aren't making sense to me? And work on those first because they aren't making sense. Seems like a good place to start. Like I said, you keep learning things and then you can go back and then other things don't look right, trust me. Moving on to learning skills. You need to learn new skills because, like I said, you're really good at hanging out of that tree, but that's not what you want to be. You want to be sitting in the hammock over here. So you need to learn new skills. And part of those skills might be learning how to be positive and how to have patience with yourself. Depends on where you are. There's all kinds of things you can learn here. But you also need to unlearn behaviors that you learned at that island. You need to unlearn whatever it is that drove you up that tree. So you say no to gathering 8 things, and that means setting boundaries and saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. That is, whatever happened over here, that is not okay. And I'm worth more than that. You'll need new skills for all of those aspects of your life again, all of those, because you have certain beliefs about all of those things that you're going to be probably changing. Are you treating yourself with love? Are there things you need to unlearn in order to do those things? And then you look for your truth. And let me tell you, it may make trekking through more layers to find your truth. You may find a truth, and then you learn more things, and then you realize, that truth is not quite right. There's things deeper into that truth that I need to look at, and you may tweak that truth, and then you may tweak it again, because you're still finding out who you really are, and you're still adjusting to what that is. And again, you will be bouncing between all these steps because it's a process. And you will probably get stuck more than once, probably many times, because it happens. Just know that you need to keep moving forward, and moving forward means moving through at some point. You can to, but, one step at a time, one four-stroke at a time. But keep moving, because you really do get through it. Be you. It is a process, and there are always things to learn about yourself. You can get to island B without being dumb. You don't get dumb. What island B is learning who you are. This is a little sheep. Island B is where you find out how to love yourself. Island B means you keep saying no to the things that got you to Island A. You stand up for yourself and you love yourself. So how does that make for smart choices in relationships? You stay true to yourself. You treat yourself with love. You don't have to be perfect. Your partner does not have to be perfect. But you need to respect each other's boundaries. You need to see the truth in each other. And choosing a partner does not have to be terrifying. Love yourself enough to stand up for yourself. Love them enough to stand up for them. And choose someone who loves themselves enough to stand up for themselves. And who loves you enough to stand up for you. What that looks like is being able to talk about hard things. Like both of you able to bring up hard things to each other and not fear how they're going to react, what they're going to say, but be able to talk about it. The secret of Island B is you move away from fear toward truth. You keep moving, even when you feel stuck, even when it's hard. And there's no system or set of steps that's going to make it easy. It's the day-to-day believing that you're worth it. There may be, when you're learning skills, there may be a system or a set of steps for fixing a piece of it, which is great. And like I said, I've read a lot of books, and some of them helped me a lot, and some of them had, step by step, this is what you gotta do. And it helped with a piece of it, but like I said, no book really got the whole process down. My book goes into my beliefs, how I came to understand why my beliefs helped me end up on Island A, various skills I learned to move from Island A to Island B, and how my beliefs look now. And that's what I want to read to you. I have a list of beliefs at the beginning of the book, and a list of beliefs at the end of the book. So belief number 1, I can trust myself. Rewritten, that becomes, I can trust myself when I'm being honest with myself. I like myself a lot. I'm a good, helpful person. Number 2, rewritten, is I'm a good, helpful person, but that is not where I find my value. Which I had a really hard time with. I like to be overly helpful. I've had to tone that down. I have a blog, it's called the Helpful Mess blog. Because that's me, I'm a helpful mess. So, it's a matter of not being unhelpful. It's of realizing you don't need to help everybody every moment of the day. Number 3, I am smart, but I can't appear smarter than my partner. Rewritten belief is I am smart, but I don't have to hide it. I can be proud of who I am. Number 4, I must guard my relationship, not only from the outside, but from inside too. Rewritten, number 4 is I must guard my own boundaries to maintain my mental health and stay true to me. Took me a long time to learn boundaries. There was a lot of them that I didn't get. Number 5, it is important to keep things steady and stable. Number 5 rewritten looks like keeping things steady and stable doesn't allow me to grow. Fear blocks my growth. Embracing the uncomfortable for a time helps me become better. Number 6, self-care is indulgent and not a priority. Rewritten, self-care is a high priority. If I don't take care of me, I can't be good at caring for anyone else. Number 7, I have emotional muscle and I can muscle through anything. There's me, clinging to that tree with all that muscle. Number 7 rewritten is I have emotional muscle and I can use it to pull out of negative thoughts. I don't need to deny my emotions or wallow in them. Just recognize them, feel them, and continue to move all the way through them. Just keep growing. Number 8, I can rely on my smartness to figure it out. Number 8 rewritten is I can rely on my smartness and problem-solving ability, but life isn't always logical. Sometimes I'm starting from a faulty belief. I don't have to be perfect. It's okay to ask for help when I don't understand or get stuck. And number 9 is partial is enough. I can and should fill in the rest. Number 9 rewritten is I am a whole person with my own thoughts, emotions, talents, hopes, dreams, and goals. If I want to be in a relationship, my significant other should see me as a whole person and should be a whole person themselves. I have a few copies of my book along. Otherwise, let me write down my information for you. My website. It's BarbaraLeighAuthor.com. And my helpfulness blog is on there. And my email address is contact@BarbaraLeighAuthor.com.